Time for my picks for Week 8, but before we get to it, the part we never like, the injury board. Let's bring it up. Let's start with Winnipeg. Darvin Adams, a great young wide receiver, got hurt in that game against Hamilton. Drew Willie, again, knocked out. This time he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. That is a critical injury for O'Shea's boys. Moving over to the wide receiver position, you have to look at both Adarius Bowman from Edmonton and Kevin Elliott from the Toronto Argonauts. Both those guys missed time. Oh, by the way, in terms of missing, I also missed one guy from Winnipeg. Yes, Paris Cotton. A lot of injuries in Winnipeg. Now time for my fantasy picks for Week 8. And I'm just a little bit under $1 million. I'm going to take some hunches, and I'm going to take some sure things. Let's start with a sure thing, and that's Trevor Harris. Could anyone believe that at the beginning of the year? Scott Milanovich deserves a ton of credit. Even his worst game, he had 200 yards and a couple touchdowns. Well, last week against Saskatchewan, Trevor Harris, 300 yards and 2 scores against the Rough Riders. Going up against Winnipeg, that saw Zach Collaros put up 3 scores. I love Trevor Harris. You can't go wrong with a guy completing more passes than any mark I ever got in high school or university. Next up at the running back position. This is a hunch pick. I'm going with Matt Walter. Walter was the backup last year for Calgary, and he's getting plenty of time this year, and he will get more now that John Cornish is out. If you think about Ottawa's defense, they're sort of middle of the pack, and Calgary likes to run the ball. Next up at receiver, Greg Ellingson, over 100 yards last week. And remember, Chris Williams is a little bit banged up, and Henry Burris looks really good right now. I look for a good game for Ellingson, who played well last time against Calgary. At the flex position, Bakari Grant. Andy Fantuz is still out. Luke Tasker was not used as much last week as I expected. Bakari Grant, the #1 receiver, the #1 guy for yards. He has been the #1 target for Zach Collaros in one of the more dynamic passing attacks in the East. At kicker, I'm going with Rene Paredes. Why? Look what Ottawa did last week. They might not have given up a lot of points, but they gave up a lot of yardage, big chunks of yardage last week in their win. That should favor the kicker for Calgary. Next up, let's go to defense, and this is about as easy as it gets. I'm going with the Hamilton Ticats. In fact, as I'm taping this video, I'm sure some guys are returning a touchdown, whether it's Brandon Banks or Emmanuel Davis. And I know that's not sustainable. It's not just about return touchdowns. Did you see what the defensive line did to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers? Racking up 7 sacks. Those guys have it going on. Finally, my value pick is Cameron Marshall. What's going on in Winnipeg? Paris Cotton, out. Darvin Adams, out. A new quarterback is going to be in there. I expect a bit more of a conservative offense from the Blue Bombers. Cameron Marshall, when he gets touches, he does produce, and he's a good value pick. So those are my picks for Week 8 of the CFL. Again, you can tweet us at CFL or at MCOS56. Good luck with Week 8. I hope your picks are at least as good, no, even better than mine. I'll check you out next week. Edmonton beat Ottawa twice. By that gambling math, Edmonton should win by 1,000.